The stars burned cold above the surface of what had once been a bustling human colony. Cities stretched like glass and steel across the planet, lights twinkling in a rhythm only humans could appreciate. But now that rhythm was gone. Smoke rose from shattered towers. Rivers of fire ran through streets that had once hummed with life, and the screams of billions had faded into a haunting silence. The alien armada had come without warning. Ships larger than entire continents had appeared from hyperspace, surrounding the planet in an unbroken circle of dark steel. Their engines shone faintly, giving the impression of a million silent suns hovering just above the atmosphere. And when they fired, there was no mercy. Cities exploded as if they had been made of paper. Towers collapsed, glass and steel raining down on streets now empty of life. Inside the chaos, one human ran. Alone, injured, bloodied, and yet defiant. The child of a world that had once celebrated its own ingenuity, this human moved through the rubble with a purpose that no alien could comprehend. Every step was calculated, every breath measured. The aliens had expected to wipe humanity out with the first strike. They had anticipated some resistance, perhaps a futile fleet in orbit, maybe a few defenders hiding in bunkers, but the human colony had resisted, somehow holding more than they should. And when the aliens finally boarded, they found billions dead, entire cities reduced to ash, and one survivor. The alien stared at him or her, it. Weak, frail, shivering, dirty, blood-streaked. Surely, this was no threat. Surely this was just a curiosity, something to study, a specimen for their records. They called it mercy. The human's eyes met theirs. In that instant, the alien saw nothing but survival. But survival, as they would soon learn, carried a storm beneath it. Inside the alien ship, the human was placed in containment. The walls hummed with energy fields. Sensors scanned relentlessly. Biometric monitors flickered as the aliens debated what to do. Some suggested studying the human for intelligence. Others joked about the cruelty of sparing such a pitiful creature. The Emperor's decree had been clear. Do not destroy all humans. Leave one alive. Let them learn the lesson of mercy. The human waited, patient, silent, watching, learning. Every pattern of the aliens' behavior, every security protocol, every flaw in the systems, it was all being observed. The hum of the containment field became a lullaby, teaching them the rhythm of alien minds. Days passed, weeks. The human moved when the aliens were distracted. The slightest distraction, a maintenance drone, a shift change, was enough to learn to adapt. The human touched consoles, watched energy flows, memorized patrol routes. Every step of the alien operation was recorded in memory and intuition. Then the first sabotage happened. Small, almost imperceptible. A power relay failed. A communications console malfunctioned. The aliens blamed technical error, shrugged, and moved on. The human smiled faintly behind closed eyes. Step 1 complete, it escalated. One night, a section of the alien ship's armory exploded. The blast was small, barely damaging the hull, but the alarm screamed across the vessel. Soldiers scrambled. The human was nowhere to be found in the security footage. The aliens scoured the decks, panicked, frustrated. They could not see, could not predict, could not understand. Impossible, hissed a commander, claws gripping the railing. This human cannot do this alone. Alarms blared again. Systems failed simultaneously in multiple sectors. Energy conduits overloaded. Weapons misfired. Aliens panicked. They could no longer ignore the possibility. The one human spared was not weak. The human moved silently, a shadow among shadows. Every action was precise. Every strike calculated. The alien's sense of superiority crumbled with each failure. They had mocked mercy. They had thought sparing one human would teach a lesson. Instead, it taught a lesson they could not understand. Humans do not surrender. Humans adapt. Humans survive. Outside the alien ship, the skies over the ruined colony glimmered with the glow of destruction. The human had been removed from the planet, yes, but the ground still remembered the footprints of resistance. Fires burned in irregular patterns, almost like signals left for anyone watching. Maybe the aliens did not notice them. Maybe no one would, but the human did. Every mark, every structure, every scar told a story of endurance and defiance. Inside the ship, the human's mind worked faster than any alien computer. Security routines, patrol schedules, weapon diagnostics, they were all memorized, predicted, and exploited. A single misstep by an alien could lead to disaster, and the human had learned how to force those missteps. The aliens, meanwhile, grew increasingly paranoid. No longer was the human a curiosity or a specimen. It was a threat. Every failure, every sabotage, every misfire brought them closer to a horrifying truth. Mercy had been their mistake. One evening, the human reached the main engineering deck. Dozens of alien engineers worked under bright lights, oblivious to the invisible predator among them. With careful precision, the human disrupted the energy core. Valves shifted, circuits overloaded. A low hum became a warning growl. Seconds later, the core sparked, exploded, and a shockwave rattled the ship. The alien screamed. Systems went offline. The containment fields faltered. The human disappeared into maintenance ducts before anyone could reach them. Panic spread like wildfire. Aliens who had laughed at the human's weakness now argued and pointed fingers. "It is everywhere," one cried. "It cannot be. It is impossible." But humans thrive in impossible circumstances. The survivor's mind had expanded beyond the limits the aliens could comprehend. They had learned the ship, the routines, the weaknesses. Each corridor was a map. Each patrol was a clockwork sequence. The human could appear anywhere, strike anywhere, and vanish before retaliation. By the time the aliens realized the extent of the sabotage, it was too late. Weapon systems misfired. Engines stalled. Communications went dead. The human had left a trail of destruction that would take weeks to repair. And in the shadows, the human waited, patient, silent, unstoppable. From the Emperor's observation deck, the supreme ruler of the alien empire watched the chaos unfold. Ships that should have been invincible faltered. Soldiers panicked. Entire sections of the flagship were offline. And yet, all the evidence pointed to a single human. One creature they had deemed unworthy of execution. The Emperor's claws tightened around the observation console. "One human," he whispered, rage and disbelief mingling in his voice. One human destroyed what thousands could not. Meanwhile, in a maintenance shaft far below, the human emerged from the shadows. They moved with purpose, scanning consoles and recording systems. The galaxy had underestimated them. The Empire had assumed mercy would be a lesson. But the human did not seek revenge, they sought opportunity. Every strike had been a lesson, every sabotage a warning. And soon, the Empire would learn the cost of mercy. Hours later, the human slipped into an escape shuttle, almost unseen, gliding silently toward the void. The alien armada searched, fired, scanned, but found nothing. The one human they had spared had vanished, leaving chaos and fear in their wake. And in that void, the human looked back at the burning planet, the destroyed cities, the alien ships fumbling in panic. They whispered a single thought to themselves. Mercy was your mistake. The galaxy was watching, and humanity was ready. The void of space was silent, almost unnaturally so. Among the drifting wreckage of alien ships, a small human shuttle moved unseen, cloaked in shadows and calculation. No weapons fired. No alarms blared. To any observer, it was just another fragment of debris drifting in the black, an unnoticed relic of the Empire's destruction. Inside, the human sat in the dim cockpit, eyes scanning displays that blinked with alien data. Each ship, each system, each fleet movement was recorded, analyzed, and memorized. The human knew the Empire better than the Emperor himself. Every flaw, every routine, every predictable arrogance was now a weapon. The aliens had believed mercy would teach humanity humility. They had spared one, thinking it weak, helpless, incapable. That decision, laughable at the time, had planted the seed of their undoing. The first strike was subtle. In a distant sector, alien supply ships were en route to reinforce a forward outpost. Human drones, disguised as debris, infiltrated their navigation systems. Engines misfired, energy relays overloaded. A cruiser drifted helplessly into an asteroid field, tearing apart as pilots struggled to regain control. The Empire's engineers scrambled, desperate to understand the malfunction. But the human had already moved on, leaving no trace except the smoking ruin of alien pride. "They are intelligent," one officer whispered to another, voice trembling. "This is no ordinary human." But the human did not strike to be noticed. Every move was strategic. Every sabotage served a larger plan. The goal was not simply to destroy. It was to teach the Empire fear, to exploit their arrogance, and to turn every advantage they had imagined into a weakness. Across multiple systems, the human moved, boarding small drones onto alien supply ships, reprogramming engines to fail at critical moments, disabling weapons. Every action was precise, leaving no fingerprints, no evidence of presence. Ships were lost, fleets slowed, but no human had been seen. To the aliens, it seemed as though misfortune had struck repeatedly, a curse rather than a conscious enemy. On the Emperor's flagship, tension rose like a storm ready to break. Alarms flashed across the bridge. Fleet reports poured in from multiple sectors, supply convoys destroyed, communications down, colonies unreachable. The human, whom they had mocked as a single, powerless creature, was now a shadow moving among stars, striking where they were weakest. "Impossible," a general shouted, claws slamming against the console. "How can one human cause so much damage? They cannot be everywhere." "They are," the Emperor said quietly, his gaze cold. "We underestimated mercy. That is our mistake." Meanwhile, the human prepared the next phase. While the aliens scrambled to repair, to regroup, to understand, the human had already studied their reactions. Every predictable decision, every tactical choice, every blind arrogance, they were all data now. Using that data, the human orchestrated a series of attacks that would cripple entire fleets before they even left the dock. The first ambush was cinematic. A small alien destroyer, bristling with energy cannons, approached a neutral star system to refuel. The humans' drones infiltrated the ship's engine core. Moments before the ship could exit hyperspace, the engines failed catastrophically. Explosions ripped through the hull. The destroyer spun helplessly, drifting into the void. No survivors. No warning. The Empire panicked. Colonies in the path of alien fleets now hesitated to send reinforcements. Fleets that had once been confident began to doubt every order. Fear, once alien to them, crept into every sector. The human did not stop. They were everywhere at once and nowhere at the same time. Cloaked scouts intercepted convoys. Relays sabotaged navigation. Weapons systems misfired under precise human manipulation. The Empire's confidence fractured. Commanders blamed one another. Generals argued. Colonies faltered. Even the Emperor, the supreme ruler, could feel the strain pressing down like gravity. "Locate the human," he demanded. "I want their position. I want their ship destroyed. No mercy." But the human had no ship, no permanent base, no predictable pattern. They were not fighting for survival alone. They were fighting with every advantage intelligence could provide. Every patrol route known, every energy shield mapped, every weakness memorized across the galaxy. Whispers spread. Alien officers told stories of a human that appeared and vanished like a ghost, of ships destroyed without warning, of sabotage that no one could predict. Fear became a tool of warfare, and in the shadows the human smiled faintly, moving to the next target. A small convoy of alien transports approached a mining station. The human had already hacked into the station's defense grid. When the convoy entered orbit, energy cannons misfired, shields failed, and missiles exploded prematurely. The transports tried to retreat, but the human had anticipated their trajectory. A single salvo destroyed 3 of them before the rest could react. "Impossible," a commander muttered. "It is only one human." But humans are not ordinary. They are adaptable, they are unpredictable, and they survive in ways that even advanced alien civilizations cannot comprehend. The human then turned attention to a heavily fortified outpost, one that had been a thorn in humanity's side for decades. Alien engineers believed it impenetrable. Energy shields, automated turrets, and patrol drones ensured it would withstand any attack. The human analyzed the defenses, studied the patterns, and executed the operation with deadly precision. Drones infiltrated the outpost. Turrets turned against each other. Energy conduits overloaded. Shields failed. Panic erupted among the alien soldiers. The human remained unseen, a ghost controlling chaos from afar. By the time the Emperor realized what had happened, the outpost was a ruin. Hundreds of soldiers were dead or captured, supplies destroyed, and still the human had vanished without leaving a trace. The Empire's panic now spread like wildfire. Colonies questioned orders. Fleets hesitated. Officers doubted their superiors. Fear, once foreign, had taken root. And all of it stemmed from one human, spared by mercy, underestimated at every turn. Back in the void, the human prepared for the next phase. The first attacks were subtle, the second were devastating, and the third would not just destroy, it would teach the aliens a lesson they would never forget. Every move was deliberate. Every strike was a message, and the Empire, for all its strength, could do nothing but react. For the human, this was more than survival. This was strategy, patience, and vengeance in its purest form. The galaxy had dismissed humanity once. They had spared one, thinking it harmless. They had made their biggest mistake, and the human was only beginning. The darkness of space stretched endlessly, cold and unfeeling, as if the universe itself watched silently. Among the stars, alien fleets moved like shadows of thunder, massive warships bristling with energy cannons, missile launchers, and automated defense systems. To any observer, it would have been an unstoppable force, the mightiest empire the galaxy had ever seen. But humans are not predictable. Hidden among the debris of destroyed alien supply lines and abandoned satellites, a single human, or so the aliens thought, moved with a precision that no machine could match. This human had survived against impossible odds, had learned the inner workings of the alien armada, and now prepared to strike. The first major target was a cruiser-class vessel, a ship twice the size of a city, bristling with energy turrets and shields designed to withstand direct hits from planetary cannons. For the aliens, it was invincible. For the human, it was a challenge waiting to be solved. Using a small, cloaked strike craft, the human approached the ship from an unexpected angle, through a dense asteroid belt no alien captain would risk entering. Sensors on the cruiser were fooled by the debris, detecting only harmless rocks tumbling through space. Yet among them, the human moved silently, weaving past detection systems with calculated precision. Inside the alien vessel, crew members worked in complacent confidence. They were trained, disciplined, and armed with the latest technology. But they were about to discover a truth their commanders had failed to anticipate. Humans are not ordinary. The human deployed a swarm of drones, tiny and virtually invisible, equipped with hacking modules and precision explosives. They slipped through ventilation shafts, bypassed energy shields, and infiltrated weapon systems. Within minutes, the first failures occurred. Turrets misfired, missile bays jammed, and the ship's engines stuttered unpredictably. Panic began to ripple through the bridge as alarms screamed, flashing red warnings that no one could immediately interpret. "What is happening?" a lieutenant shouted, claws slamming the console. "Systems are failing. Shields are down in multiple sectors." The captain barked orders, but the human had already calculated every potential response. Every evasive maneuver the ship attempted had been predicted and countered in advance. The drones struck simultaneously at critical junctions, causing explosions that tore through sections of the vessel. Then came the boarding strike. Tiny, almost imperceptible pods penetrated the hull, releasing more drones that moved through corridors, sabotaging power conduits and disabling life support systems. Crew members panicked, attempting to contain the damage, but it was too late. Every critical system had been compromised. The cruiser-class ship exploded in a spectacular blaze of fire and energy, drifting helplessly into the void as debris scattered across the asteroid belt. The human watched from a distance, cloaked and calm, every move planned and executed with perfection. The first major victory was complete. But humans do not act alone. This single human had learned that victory required more than one strike. It required strategic terror. In nearby sectors, alien communications reported similar incidents. Supply lines disappeared. Patrol vessels were destroyed before reinforcements could arrive. Fleets fractured under the pressure of unseen attacks. Colonies once loyal to the Empire now questioned orders. Fear spread faster than any weapon. The Emperor, observing from his flagship, felt unease for the first time in centuries. Reports of destroyed ships, sabotaged fleets, and mysterious attacks reached him from every corner of the Empire. "Locate the human immediately," he ordered, voice sharp with anger and disbelief. "I want this. Creature destroyed. Do not underestimate it again." But the human had no base, no pattern, no weakness for the aliens to exploit. Every reaction of the Empire had been anticipated, predicted, and countered. The human struck from shadows, from angles no alien technology could detect, and disappeared before retaliation could occur. Meanwhile, the human expanded the campaign. Smaller fleets were ambushed using sabotage and diversion tactics. Hyperspace routes were tampered with, causing ships to emerge in dangerous areas or collide with natural hazards. Communication arrays were hacked, spreading false orders that created chaos and disarray. The first battle of full-scale retaliation came when an alien cruiser fleet attempted to engage human forces in a heavily defended sector. The humans, having studied the fleet's movements for days, had laid a perfect trap. Cloaked human vessels moved silently through asteroid fields, waiting for the right moment. When the alien fleet entered the trap, energy beams erupted from multiple directions simultaneously. Shields failed. Engines stalled. Missiles exploded prematurely. The alien ships, though massive and armed with superior technology, fell apart under precise and coordinated attacks. The Emperor's face turned pale as reports came in. "Impossible," he whispered, almost to himself. "It is only one human. How can it be everywhere at once?" The human, watching from the edge of the battlefield, prepared for the next phase. The key was psychological dominance. Fear had already begun to spread among the alien ranks. Ships that should have been confident now hesitated. Colonies waited for orders that never came. Leaders questioned one another, unsure how to respond to an enemy that appeared omnipresent yet invisible. The humans' next target was a heavily fortified outpost near a vital hyperspace junction. Energy shields and automated defenses made a frontal assault impossible. Instead, the human relied on strategy and deception. Cloaked drones infiltrated maintenance shafts, sabotaging power conduits and disabling turrets. False signals were sent to the alien fleet, drawing reinforcements into ambush zones. When the main assault began, the outpost fell within hours. Soldiers captured or destroyed, supply lines severed, and communications disrupted. Every strike left a message. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was not afraid, and mercy was a mistake. Across multiple star systems, similar operations unfolded simultaneously. The human was everywhere. Every fleet, every convoy, every installation became a potential target. The alien empire, vast and powerful, began to fracture under the relentless pressure of an invisible opponent. In the Emperor's Council, generals and ministers argued, blaming one another for failures. Colonies reported strange attacks, sabotage, and unexplained losses. Commanders feared the one human could predict every move, strike every weakness, and vanish before retribution could occur. The Empire's confidence, once unshakable, had begun to crumble. Even seasoned admirals whispered in fear, "This is no ordinary human. It is something else, something we cannot defeat with technology or numbers." The human strategy was not simply destruction, it was psychological warfare, a demonstration of intelligence and patience. By allowing the Empire to continue believing in its own invincibility, the human created a false sense of control that could be exploited repeatedly. Every victory reinforced alien fear, every disappearance sowed doubt, and every destroyed fleet shattered confidence. The first blood had been spilled, and the taste of it would echo across the galaxy. Back aboard a cloaked human command vessel, the survivor reviewed fleet movements. Reports of destruction, sabotage, and confusion from alien sectors scrolled across displays. No human had been seen, yet the Empire was bleeding. The human smiled faintly. They had not only survived, they had turned the galaxy's most powerful empire into prey. In the silence between strikes, the human considered the next move. The Empire would not surrender easily. They would respond with overwhelming force. Entire fleets would converge, colonies would be fortified, and desperate measures would be taken. But the human had prepared for this. Every tactic, every scenario, every response had been anticipated, and when the alien empire struck, it would only play into the human's plan. Every miscalculation, every predictable reaction, every blind arrogance would be turned against them. For now, the galaxy watched, trembling, and humanity waited, patient, silent, and unstoppable. The stars stretched endlessly, glittering like distant promises across the black void. But in that calm there was tension, an invisible weight pressing across the galaxy. The alien empire, once confident in its might, now trembled. They no longer trusted their own fleets. Colonies questioned orders. Officers doubted superiors. And somewhere in the vastness of space, a single human orchestrated every collapse with precise, calculated patience. The human had learned their enemies too well. They knew every patrol schedule, every hyperspace route, every defensive weakness, every alien fleet movement, every predictable response, every arrogance had been studied and stored in memory. The Empire believed they were hunting a fragile survivor, One human that could do no more than scurry in shadows. But the human had transformed into something else entirely. A strategist, a phantom, a living weapon capable of predicting their every move. The first stage of the trap began in a remote sector, near a cluster of dense asteroid fields. The aliens had deployed a reinforcement fleet to suppress insurgent colonies that were attempting to flee under human influence. 3 cruiser-class vessels led the armada, escorted by smaller destroyers and patrol craft. The Empire believed the sector secure. They did not know that one human had already mapped every asteroid, every gravitational fluctuation, and every blind spot in the fleet's sensors. Cloaked human strike vessels drifted silently among the asteroids, invisible to scanners and undetectable to visual sight. Boarding drones lurked in asteroid shadows, ready to infiltrate hulls at the precise moment. Energy disruptors were positioned strategically, waiting to overload shields and engines simultaneously. Inside the alien command bridge, officers monitored fleet positions with the confidence of centuries of experience. "The human is trapped," one sneered, claws tapping the console. "There is nowhere they can escape. Their forces are minimal. This will be simple," the Emperor himself observed from the central command station, his long, spindly fingers drumming on the armrest. "Do not underestimate them," he said coldly, though even he did not yet fully comprehend the scale of the threat. Even one human can be unpredictable. "Keep eyes on all sectors. Leave nothing to chance." But the human had already anticipated the Emperor's warnings. Every patrol, every scan, every countermeasure was already countered before the aliens knew it existed. In the vastness of the asteroid belt, one human orchestrated chaos with the precision of a master composer conducting a symphony of destruction. The first signal came almost imperceptibly, a tiny disruption in the leading cruiser's energy grid. No alarms triggered yet, only a subtle flicker in the shields. The alien officers ignored it, assuming minor system fluctuation. That assumption would cost them dearly. Then the secondary disruptors activated. Engines began to stutter, systems misfired, and automated turrets turned on the wrong targets. Panic spread quickly among the crews. Destroyers tried to maneuver to protect the cruisers, but the human had predicted every trajectory. Mines hidden among the asteroids detonated at precise intervals, creating debris fields that ripped through escort ships. The Empire's confidence began to crack. From a hidden vantage point, the human deployed micro-drones into the cruiser's ventilation shafts. Each drone sabotaged critical systems, power conduits, life support navigation arrays, while remaining undetectable to alien sensors. The ships lurched and faltered. Energy beams flared against their own shields. Missiles misfired or detonated inside launch bays. The alien fleet had become a puppet of the human strategy, moving exactly as predicted, striking itself without realizing it. The first cruiser exploded spectacularly, torn apart from internal sabotage. Debris scattered across the asteroid belt like a macabre fireworks display. Destroyers attempting to flee collided with the debris, while the remaining cruiser drifted, crippled and defenseless. "Impossible," one officer screamed, claws gripping the console. "This cannot be the work of a single human." But it was. Every strike had been calculated, every outcome anticipated, every reaction accounted for. And the human remained unseen, a ghost among the stars, invisible, yet devastating. The Empire's panic spread quickly. Reports of destroyed fleets and sabotaged installations reached other sectors. Colonies became nervous, fearing attacks that seemed impossible. Communication delays exacerbated the chaos, as no one could verify the accuracy of any report. The human's presence became a ghostly rumor that haunted every officer, every commander, every colonist. The next stage of the trap was psychological. The human knew the Empire would respond with brute force. Massive fleets would be deployed. Soldiers would be sent to hunt, to overwhelm, to crush. But humans are unpredictable, adaptable, and patient. The human turned the Empire's strength into weakness. Strategically placed false signals misled alien commanders. One fleet was guided into a debris field where cloaked human drones tore ships apart silently. Another fleet was diverted toward a distant star system, where energy disruptors created confusion and collisions among their vessels. Every move made by the Empire played into the humans' plan. At the heart of the trap lay a massive alien outpost, heavily fortified, controlling hyperspace lanes and supply routes for the surrounding sectors. The aliens believed it impenetrable, but the human had mapped every access point, every shield fluctuation, every security blind spot. Using small drones and remote hacking systems, the human infiltrated the outpost, disabling defenses from within, while drawing attention away with visible attacks elsewhere. When the assault finally came, the Empire's fleets found themselves trapped. Cloaked human strike vessels emerged from asteroid shadows, attacking from multiple angles. Explosions rocked cruisers and destroyers simultaneously. Automated turrets malfunctioned, shields collapsed. Panic spread through every bridge. The Empire's soldiers, trained for centuries, now fought against unseen forces they could not anticipate. Within hours, the outpost was destroyed. Supply lines severed. Communications disrupted. Hundreds of alien soldiers were killed or captured. The human strategy had turned the Empire's own strength against itself, creating a spectacle of destruction so precise it could only have been planned by a genius. The Emperor, observing the chaos from his flagship, could only stare. Reports from the sector poured in, each more horrifying than the last. Entire fleets destroyed, colonies unreachable, outposts annihilated, and still, no trace of the human, no ship, no base, nothing tangible to strike back at. This cannot be, the Emperor whispered. One human, how? But humans are not ordinary. They are cunning, patient, and relentless. They thrive in impossible circumstances, turn weakness into strength, and exploit arrogance as a weapon. The human had transformed a single act of mercy, the Emperor's decision to spare one survivor, into a weapon that would unravel the Empire. The Empire's panic spread like wildfire. Colonies debated whether to continue allegiance. Commanders hesitated, afraid of the invisible enemy that struck with perfect timing. Even the most confident fleets faltered, unsure how to react. Every response by the aliens had been predicted. Every miscalculation exploited. In the shadows of space, the human prepared for the next phase. The first trap had been laid. The Empire had taken the bait. Every move now was controlled, anticipated, and ready to be turned against them, and the humans' patience was infinite. They were no longer a survivor. They were a strategist, a phantom, and a warning. Every destroyed ship, every sabotaged outpost, every shattered fleet sent a message. Mercy was your mistake, and now humanity will decide the rules. The first trap had worked perfectly. The Empire had fallen into the humans' design. The galaxy watched, trembling, and in that silence, the humans smiled faintly, preparing the next stage of destruction, a campaign so precise, so devastating, that the Empire would never recover. For the first time, the galaxy understood a terrifying truth. One human, underestimated and spared, could bring an empire to its knees. The trap had been sprung, and the Empire was caught. The void of space was deceptive. To the naked eye, it seemed calm, empty. A black ocean dotted with distant, indifferent stars. Yet in that vast emptiness, entire fleets moved unseen, silent and deadly. Humanity's first strike had been a whisper, subtle and precise. Now it was about to become a storm that would sweep across the alien empire, unstoppable and invisible. The human who had survived the initial onslaught of the alien armada had grown, not just in skill or strategy, but in scale. Where the Empire had thought there was only one, there were now hidden ships, silent, cloaked and lethal, lurking in the shadows of deep space. They were humanity's secret weapon, the Ghost Fleet. The first reports came slowly, almost disbelievingly, to the Empire's command. Cruiser after cruiser, vessel after vessel, disappeared from hyperspace lanes without warning. Supply convoys vanished entirely. Small patrols were destroyed before any alarm could be raised. The Empire's commanders scratched their heads. No one could see the fleet. No one could track its movements. It was as if the universe itself had turned against them. But the human had anticipated the panic. Every ship in the Ghost Fleet was positioned strategically across multiple sectors, prepared to strike wherever the Empire least expected it. They were fast, stealthy, and coordinated in a way that alien technology could not predict. From the bridge of a cloaked command vessel, the human watched the galaxy's most powerful armada move into position. Every fleet movement, every patrol rotation, every predicted response was already known. It was a game, and the human was playing it flawlessly. The first engagement was brutal. A heavily armed alien convoy, transporting supplies to a critical outpost, entered a sector rigged with hidden human strike vessels. The human waited patient as the convoy moved along its predictable course. Then, in a single coordinated moment, the Ghost Fleet struck. Cloaked ships emerged from multiple angles, firing energy beams that disabled shields and weapons almost simultaneously. Drones boarded the ships, sabotaging engines and power cores. Explosions rocked the convoy, and within minutes, it was annihilated. In the Empire's command stations, reports flooded in. "Entire convoy destroyed," officers screamed. "How? How is this possible? This is no ordinary human," a general muttered, claws tapping the console nervously. "They are everywhere at once, and we cannot track them. But humans are not ordinary. They are patient, adaptable, and relentless." The Ghost Fleet was the embodiment of human intelligence and strategy, turning every advantage the Empire believed it held into a weakness. Next, the human targeted an alien mining colony on a distant planet. The outpost was heavily fortified, with automated turrets, shield generators, and patrol drones covering every possible approach. Most humans would have considered it impossible to infiltrate, but not this one. The human had studied the colony's patterns for days, noting shifts, patrol routines, and shield cycles. When the strike began, drones infiltrated the colony's defenses from hidden orbital stations. Energy conduits were sabotaged. Shields failed and turrets misfired against one another. The defenders scrambled in panic, unable to understand the invisible enemy striking them from every angle. Within hours, the colony was in ruins, its resources destroyed or captured, and its personnel either dead or fleeing into the wilderness. The Empire's panic grew. Reports of Ghost Fleet activity spread like wildfire across multiple sectors. Commanders hesitated, unsure whether to engage, where to deploy, or whether any order could even be trusted. Colonies whispered rumors of humans appearing like ghosts, destroying fleets and outposts without warning and vanishing before any retaliation could occur. The Empire's confidence, once unshakable, began to crumble. The human had anticipated this. Chaos was as much a weapon as any missile or energy beam. Fear spread faster than destruction, and the Empire, for all its strength, was losing the war in its mind long before losing ships in space. In the northern sectors of the Empire, a fleet attempted to intercept the Ghost Fleet. They had learned nothing from prior attacks, assuming that brute force could overcome strategy. But the human had anticipated this. Cloaked vessels moved silently among asteroid fields, drawing the alien fleet into a carefully prepared ambush. As the aliens entered a narrow pass between massive asteroids, the human unleashed the Ghost Fleet. Energy beams flared from hidden positions, striking alien shields from blind angles. Missiles detonated prematurely inside launch bays. Drones infiltrated command decks, sabotaging navigation and communication systems. The alien fleet, though massive, was rendered helpless in minutes. Several cruisers exploded spectacularly, while the survivors were forced to retreat, battered and broken. The human did not celebrate. There was no joy in destruction, only purpose. Every strike was a message. Humanity had been underestimated, and that underestimation would cost the Empire dearly. Meanwhile, deep within a cloaked command vessel, the human reviewed data from multiple engagements. Every battle, every sabotage, every ambush was logged meticulously. The patterns of the Empire's fleet were mapped, their weaknesses catalogued, and their predictable responses anticipated. The Ghost Fleet was not just a force of attack. It was a weapon of intelligence, patience, and strategy, and the Empire, for all its might, had no way to counter it. The next phase was psychological. The human knew that visible destruction alone would not be enough to break the alien empire. Fear, Uncertainty and doubt had to spread first. To achieve this, smaller strike vessels were deployed to appear in multiple locations simultaneously, striking briefly before vanishing into the void. Reports from alien commanders came in fragmented and terrified. Entire fleets claimed attacks from humans in sectors thousands of light-years apart, occurring at the same moment. Supply lines vanished, colonies reported strange sightings, and officers questioned whether the universe itself was conspiring against them. In the midst of this chaos, the human prepared for the largest strike yet, a coordinated attack on multiple alien capitals simultaneously, aimed at crippling command, morale, and logistics. The Ghost Fleet would converge on vital sectors, delivering a message that would resonate across the galaxy. On the Emperor's flagship, tension had reached a breaking point. Generals and admirals argued, blaming one another for failures. Colonies questioned orders. Every fleet was uncertain, unsure whether engagement would result in destruction. The Emperor, who had once ruled with absolute confidence, now felt a chilling uncertainty for the first time in centuries. "This is not possible," he whispered, voice low and tense. "One human. How can they be everywhere?" But humans are not ordinary. They are adaptable, relentless and patient. They thrive in impossible circumstances. The human had turned the Empire's strength into weakness, its confidence into panic, and its might into a weapon against itself. As the Ghost Fleet moved toward its next target, cloaked and silent, the human prepared the final stage of the assault for this campaign. A strike so precise, so devastating, that the Empire would have no choice but to recognize humanity as a force beyond comprehension. The first engagement of the simultaneous strike began in a heavily fortified sector. Alien warships bristled with energy turrets, shield generators hummed with power, and patrols scanned the surrounding space relentlessly. The human had predicted every movement, every response, every possible countermeasure. Cloaked vessels emerged from asteroid shadows. Drones infiltrated the ship's hulls, and energy disruptors disabled systems with surgical precision. Within minutes, the sector was in chaos. Cruiser after cruiser exploded. Turrets misfired. Shields collapsed. Panic spread across the alien ranks like wildfire, and the human was gone, unseen, undetectable, unstoppable. The Ghost Fleet had revealed its presence in full. The Empire was bleeding in multiple sectors at once. Fear had taken root, confidence had shattered, and the human, spared by mercy, had become the ghost that haunted the galaxy. From the cockpit of a command vessel, the human gazed at the destruction, calm, patient, and silent. The Empire had believed they had power, control, and certainty. But the human had shown them the truth. Humans are not ordinary, and mercy is a mistake the Empire would never forgive. Every explosion, every destroyed ship, every shattered fleet carried a single message. You underestimated humanity, and now you will pay the price. The Ghost Fleet waited, ready to strike again, its presence known only to the human commander who controlled it all. The Empire had entered a new war, a war where fear, strategy, and intelligence were the deadliest weapons. And in that war, humans were unstoppable. The galaxy watched, trembling, and humanity waited, patient, silent, and deadly. The alien empire had never known fear. For centuries, its fleets had dominated every corner of known space. Its colonies had flourished under the shadow of its might. Its commanders had never questioned orders. Its soldiers had never hesitated in battle. Confidence was as natural to them as the stars themselves. Until now. Now that confidence was cracking. Slowly at first, almost imperceptibly, then violently, as if the galaxy itself had decided to revolt against the Empire. Ships that should have been invincible fell to invisible attacks. Supply lines, once secure, vanished into the void. Entire colonies hesitated, unsure whether to defend, flee, or surrender. And everywhere, unseen, moved a single human, or so the Empire thought. The human had watched, studied, and learned from the first 5 campaigns. They knew every predictable reaction of the Empire, every arrogance, every blind spot. They had anticipated the panic, but now They were ready to accelerate it. The Ghost fleet was positioned for maximum effect, ready to strike multiple sectors simultaneously, demonstrating not only humanity's strength, but its intelligence, patience, and strategic superiority. The first wave of the campaign struck a key hyperspace junction, connecting multiple sectors. Hundreds of supply convoys passed through this junction daily, carrying weapons, fuel, and personnel critical to the Empire's ongoing operations. Alien officers believed it secure. They did not know the human had predicted their overconfidence. From hidden vantage points in the asteroid belt surrounding the junction, the Ghost fleet lay in wait. Cloaked ships moved silently, nearly indistinguishable, from the rocks and debris drifting in the void. Drones infiltrated the convoys before they even exited hyperspace, sabotaging engines, misaligning navigation systems, and planting explosives in critical sections of the hulls. Then, as the first convoy entered the trap, the human unleashed the assault. Energy beams flared from multiple angles simultaneously, tearing through shields and hulls. Missiles detonated prematurely, striking the ships from within. Automated defense systems, hacked and reprogrammed, turned on their own vessels. Within minutes, dozens of supply ships had been destroyed or disabled, leaving the junction in chaos. On the alien command bridge, officers shouted orders in confusion. "Report, what is happening?" One bellowed. "All systems are failing, shields are down, engines offline." "It is a human," another whispered, voice trembling. "It cannot be one." It is everywhere at once. But humans are not ordinary. They are adaptable, patient, and relentless. They do not rely on brute force alone. They think, predict, and exploit weaknesses in ways even advanced alien civilizations cannot comprehend. And this human, hidden among shadows, cloaked in patience, was a master of strategy. The second strike targeted a heavily fortified colony on a mining planet. Energy shields covered every approach, automated turrets patrolled every perimeter, and fleets patrolled the orbit continuously. Most humans would have considered such a colony impossible to breach. Not this one. The human had spent weeks analyzing the colony's patrol routes, shield cycles, and weapon timing. Drones infiltrated the planet's orbit undetected, entering maintenance shafts, power conduits, and ventilation systems. They sabotaged the shields, rerouted energy flows, and turned the colony's own defenses against it. When the assault began, automated turrets misfired against each other. Shield generators overloaded and failed. Communications arrays went dark. Panic erupted among the alien colonists, soldiers, and engineers. The human strike vessels emerged from the shadows, coordinated, precise, and lethal. Within hours, the colony was neutralized. Supplies were destroyed, personnel were captured or killed, and the human was gone, leaving nothing but silence and devastation. Across multiple sectors, reports continued to flood the Empire's command centers. Entire fleets destroyed, supply convoys annihilated, colonies falling or cut off, communication lines severed. The alien empire, once a machine of order and confidence, now staggered under a wave of chaos it could not control. The Emperor, observing from his flagship, could barely contain his rage and disbelief. How can this be?" he whispered. "One human, how?" Generals and admirals around him argued in panic. Strategies that had worked for centuries failed. Fleets hesitated to engage. Colonies debated whether to resist or surrender preemptively. The Empire's structure, once unshakable, was crumbling from fear, uncertainty, and the relentless efficiency. The human's next target was the Empire's communication hub, a massive orbital station linking every fleet, colony, and command center. Disabling it would create confusion, delay reinforcements, and amplify panic across the galaxy. The Ghost fleet approached under full cloak. Small, precise drones infiltrated the station's external hull, bypassing shields and security systems. Energy conduits were sabotaged, generators overloaded, and internal systems hacked to misdirect defense turrets. The station's personnel attempted to respond, but the human had anticipated every action. Every countermeasure failed. Within hours, the station was disabled, leaving the Empire blind to attacks in progress, unable to coordinate fleets effectively. and vulnerable to further strikes. As the Ghost Fleet moved to its next target, entire alien fleets hesitated. Officers questioned orders. Colonies debated surrender. The once mighty empire was paralyzed by fear of an enemy that could strike anywhere, anytime, and disappear without warning. In the heart of a heavily defended sector, the human prepared the most audacious strike yet, the target, a major shipyard constructing warships for the Empire's front lines. Destroying it would cripple fleet production, force the Empire to spread defenses thin, and send a clear message that humans could strike at the heart of their power. Drones infiltrated the shipyard systems. Automated defenses were hacked to fire upon their own structures. Engines, weapons, and shields of incomplete warships were sabotaged, leaving them vulnerable. When the strike came, energy beams and explosives tore through the yard with devastating efficiency. Hundreds of ships were destroyed or rendered inoperable before any alarm could be raised. Engineers and soldiers fled or perished. The human watched silently from a distance, invisible, patient, and deadly. By the end of the first week of this campaign, the alien empire was reeling. Supply lines were fractured. Fleets were crippled. Colonies were in panic. Communications were sporadic at best. And the Ghost Fleet, though hidden, had demonstrated that humans were no longer merely survivors. They were strategists, tacticians and ghosts moving through the stars with lethal precision. The Emperor, for the first time, felt vulnerability. Centuries of dominance, thousands of systems under his control, and yet a single human had shattered the confidence of his empire. Panic, fear, and doubt gnawed at the edges of command. Every officer second-guessed their orders. Every fleet hesitated. Even the most loyal colonies questioned whether they could survive. The human had not only destroyed ships and colonies, they had destroyed confidence itself. The Empire's greatest weapon had always been its certainty, its confidence, its ability to dominate. That weapon had been stripped away. The human, observing the chaos from a hidden command vessel, prepared the next phase of the assault. It would be faster, deadlier, and more unpredictable. Entire sectors would fall under the shadow of the Ghost Fleet, leaving the Empire reeling and defenseless. And all of it had begun with mercy, a decision made centuries ago to spare a single human life. A life that had grown into a legend, a nightmare, and a force the galaxy could not hope to contain. The Empire shook. Its fleets were scattered, its colonies fearful, and its command paralyzed. Fear, once alien to them, now dominated their every thought. And in the shadows, the human waited, patient, calculating, and unstoppable. The galaxy had learned a harsh truth. Humans are not ordinary. And mercy is a mistake empires never survive. The Ghost Fleet moved silently, preparing the final assaults that would determine the fate of the alien empire, and humanity waited, patient, relentless, and deadly, ready to claim the revenge it had been denied for centuries. The galaxy was trembling. The alien empire, once unchallenged, was fractured. Its fleets scattered, its colonies fearful, its communications crippled. Supply lines no longer existed. Shipyards were in ruins. The Empire's confidence, once as solid as the mountains of its core worlds, had been shattered. And yet the Emperor believed they still had a chance, a desperate hope that might be enough to reclaim control. But the human had reached the final phase of the campaign, the breaking point. For weeks, the Ghost Fleet had moved unseen, striking relentlessly, cutting off supply lines, sabotaging fleets, and destabilizing colonies. Now the human prepared to deliver the ultimate blow, a coordinated assault on the Empire's central command sector, the heart of alien power. Destroy it and the Empire would collapse, outmaneuver it, and humanity would have cemented its dominance across the stars. The command sector was a fortress in orbit around the Empire's capital world. Energy shields stretched for thousands of kilometers, and fleets patrolled constantly, ensuring no enemy could approach undetected. Automated defense arrays bristled across every surface, capable of destroying any ship that dared enter. The sector had survived sieges, attacks, and rebellions for centuries. None had succeeded. None, until now. The human watched from a hidden command vessel, cloaked beyond detection. Every patrol route had been studied. Every shield fluctuation mapped. Every weapon system cataloged. Every possible response from the Emperor anticipated. The assault would be surgical, precise, and devastating. The first phase involved disruption. Cloaked human vessels positioned themselves around the sector's outer defenses. Small drones infiltrated patrol ships, sabotaging engines and weapon systems. Communication arrays were jammed or rerouted, feeding false signals to the Empire's command. Automated defenses were hacked, set to misfire against friendly ships at the right moment. Within hours, the outer perimeter was compromised, leaving the first line of the sector's defenses vulnerable. The Empire noticed anomalies almost immediately. Officers shouted in panic as turrets misfired, engines failed, and communications were scrambled. The Emperor's face darkened. "This cannot be," he growled. "How can one human achieve this?" "Alert all fleets. Deploy the central defenses." But the human had anticipated even this response. The Ghost Fleet shifted, striking simultaneously from unexpected angles. Cloaked vessels darted through asteroid belts, asteroid fields, and shadowed corners of space, appearing for moments only to vanish again. Their attacks were coordinated perfectly, ensuring the maximum disruption with minimal exposure. Inside the central command station, alarms blared. Generals scrambled, issuing orders, trying to regain control. But every move had been predicted. Every fleet placement, every deployment, every tactical maneuver had already been calculated and countered by the human. Ships collided with each other. Missiles detonated prematurely, and shields collapsed in rapid succession. The Empire's might was crumbling before their eyes. The humans' second phase targeted the capital world itself. Orbital defenses were compromised by infiltrating drones. Energy conduits overloaded and exploded. Shield generators failed one by one, unable to withstand the coordinated sabotage. Automated turrets turned inward, firing on supply stations and hangars. Entire orbital platforms collapsed under the precise strikes. On the surface, the citizens of the Empire looked up in horror as the sky erupted with fire and explosions. The fleets they had trusted to protect them were being torn apart. Panic spread across the capital world. Colonists fled from orbital stations and cities. Soldiers scrambled without orders, unsure of where to fight or how to respond. And still, the human remained unseen. The final phase of the assault was psychological, a display of power and control that would crush morale. The Ghost Fleet coordinated multiple visible attacks, moving across sectors simultaneously, appearing in sectors thousands of light years apart. Entire alien fleets reported assaults occurring in multiple locations at the same time. Convoys vanished. Outposts collapsed. Colonies were cut off. The Empire's soldiers, officers, and citizens were paralyzed with fear. The Emperor, watching from the flagship, could only mutter in disbelief. One human." His voice trailed off. "How is this possible? Humans are not ordinary. They are relentless, intelligent, and adaptable. They do not fight like other species. They predict, anticipate, and exploit weaknesses with precision, and the human who had been spared centuries ago had become the embodiment of all these qualities. A phantom strategist who could strike anywhere, at any time, with total control." As the final assault unfolded, entire alien fleets surrendered without a fight. Ship after ship powered down its weapons. Colonies signaled their capitulation. Commanders who had once been unshakable now knelt in fear before an invisible enemy they could not defeat. The Empire's infrastructure was crippled, its morale destroyed, its confidence gone. The Emperor's flagship, the last symbol of imperial authority, floated in orbit like a wounded beast. Cloaked human vessels approached silently. Boarding, drones infiltrated the ship, sabotaging engines and weapon systems from within. Explosions rocked the bridge. Systems failed. Officers screamed as chaos consumed them. The Emperor, for all his centuries of experience and power, was powerless against a foe he could not see, predict, or control. When the human finally revealed themselves, it was brief, precise, and devastating. Cloaked vessels emerged around the flagship, overwhelming it with energy beams and missiles. Shields collapsed under the precision strikes. Engines failed. The Emperor's ship exploded spectacularly, leaving nothing behind but debris drifting silently in the void. With the Emperor gone, the Empire fell into chaos. Command structures collapsed. Fleets surrendered, colonies yielded. Communication arrays were silenced. Fear, despair, and awe spread across every sector. Humanity had achieved the impossible. One human spared by mercy had brought the mightiest empire in the galaxy to its knees. The human stood among the stars, observing the aftermath. Entire sectors were quiet now. The Empire's forces either destroyed or surrendered. Supply lines, fleets, and outposts had been dismantled. The galaxy had witnessed the truth. Humans are not ordinary, and mercy is a mistake that can destroy civilizations. And yet the human did not celebrate. There was no joy in destruction, only purpose. Every strike had been deliberate, every attack precise. The Empire had underestimated humanity, and now it had paid the price in full. Across the galaxy, survivors of the Empire whispered tales of the human who had shattered fleets, destroyed colonies, and brought their civilization to its knees. Fear, respect, and disbelief spread in equal measure. Humanity had proven once and for all that it was a force unmatched, a strategist beyond comprehension, and a species that could not be ignored. The breaking point had been reached. The galaxy had changed forever, and humanity waited, patient, silent, and unstoppable. The galaxy held its breath. Where once the alien empire had ruled with unquestioned authority, now silence spread across countless systems. Communication arrays, fleets, and command centers were either destroyed or under human control. Fear had replaced confidence, uncertainty had replaced certainty, and despair had replaced pride. Yet, the human who had orchestrated this upheaval remained calm. In the hidden command vessel, cloaked and unseen, they observed the fractured empire with precise calculation. Every strike, every sabotage, every surrender had been a step toward this final act, the reckoning. The first phase of the final campaign was to consolidate control. Entire sectors, previously under imperial authority, now waited for direction. Colonies were in disarray, unsure whether to resist or submit. The human knew that fear alone would not be enough to maintain stability. Order had to be imposed strategically, ensuring that no rebellion could rise in the void left by the Empire's collapse. To achieve this, the Ghost Fleet moved swiftly. Cloaked vessels approached each sector silently, signaling surrender or alliance to alien colonies. Messages were broadcast across multiple frequencies simultaneously. You have been spared. Obedience is advised. Resistance is futile. Some colonies surrendered immediately. Others hesitated, hoping against hope that the Empire could reclaim its strength. But the human anticipated every hesitation. Drones were sent to patrol orbital sectors, enforcing compliance quietly but decisively. Supply lines were restored to those willing to submit. Resources were cut off for those who resisted. In every case, the human maintained complete control without revealing themselves directly. The Empire's remaining fleets, scattered across the galaxy, attempted to regroup. Dozens of warships converged on critical sectors in a desperate attempt to reassert control. But the human had prepared for this. Cloaked vessels intercepted them at blind points in hyperspace, using the environment, asteroid belts, debris fields, and gravity wells, to their advantage. Energy beams struck from angles impossible to predict. Missiles detonated prematurely. Internal sabotage disabled weapons and engines. Within hours, the remaining fleets were shattered. Cruiser after cruiser exploded, destroyers fled, and soldiers surrendered or fled to uncharted regions. The Emperor's death, though shocking, had already fractured the command structure irreparably. Without leadership, without morale, the Empire could not resist. The human paused only briefly before moving to the final phase. The judgment. This would not be mere destruction. It would be absolute, undeniable control, leaving a clear message to the galaxy that humans were no longer to be underestimated. From hidden positions in the galaxy, the human orchestrated the systematic dismantling of the Empire's infrastructure. Orbital stations controlling energy distribution were sabotaged. Key manufacturing facilities were destroyed, eliminating the Empire's ability to build new warships or weapons. Communications networks were hijacked, broadcasting human authority across former Imperial systems. Entire sectors were secured without firing a single shot. Fear and precision had done the work. And yet for some, defiance remained. Certain fleets refused to surrender. Certain colonies attempted to resist. The human allowed them to act, for each act of defiance was a calculation. It revealed patterns, weaknesses, and points of resistance that could be neutralized with surgical precision. When the time came, the Ghost Fleet struck. Swift, precise, and decisive. Defiant fleets were annihilated. Colonies attempting rebellion were subdued either by force or by cutting off vital supplies. Every strike was a lesson, a demonstration of human superiority. In one critical system, a major alien capital on a planet named Varian resisted with thousands of soldiers and dozens of warships. The humans' vessels approached from multiple angles, cloaked beyond detection. Boarding drones infiltrated the capital's orbital platforms, sabotaging shield generators, weapons, and engines. Energy beams struck from hidden positions, while missiles disabled the remaining ships. Soldiers on the planet's surface scrambled, trying to mount a defense, but the humans' precision and control left no room for victory. Within hours, the capital had fallen, its fleets destroyed, its defenses neutralized, and its leaders forced to surrender. The remaining colonies, witnessing this, realized the futility of resistance. Reports of annihilated fleets, destroyed capitals, and invisible forces capable of striking anywhere spread faster than any propaganda the Empire had ever deployed. Fear became absolute. Compliance became the only logical choice. The human then focused on the final element of control, the message. Across every sector, communication arrays broadcast a simple statement. Mercy is gone. Humanity decides the rules now. All who resist will be destroyed. All who obey will survive. It was not a threat. It was a fact, demonstrated repeatedly across the galaxy. Fleets, colonies, and entire populations understood that humans were beyond their comprehension, beyond prediction, and beyond resistance. The Empire had been shattered, its leaders dead or in hiding, its fleets destroyed, and its colonies subdued. The galaxy had witnessed a power unlike any it had known before, and the human, who had once been spared by mercy, now ruled not by force of arms alone but by strategy, intelligence, and control. The final act was both practical and symbolic. The human allowed surviving alien leaders to convene, offering terms of surrender that were fair but firm. No unnecessary slaughter occurred. The Empire's systems could remain operational, provided they acknowledged human authority and agreed to abide by the new order. Many leaders, weary of endless destruction and fearful of the Ghost Fleet's unseen power, accepted. Others fled into uncharted space, unsure if they could ever resist again. And still, the human did not reveal themselves. Humanity's dominance had been established not by visibility but by presence, calculation, and precise action. The galaxy knew humans were unmatched, unstoppable, and unforgiving to those who underestimated them. But no one knew exactly how many humans controlled the Ghost Fleet, where they were, or how they would act next. In the aftermath, peace returned to the galaxy, but it was a new kind of peace. A peace dictated by strategy, intelligence, and the knowledge that humans were not ordinary. Entire civilizations adapted to the new order, understanding that resistance was futile and that compliance was the only path to survival. The humans' influence extended silently, shaping the galaxy's future without firing another shot. For the first time, the human commander allowed themselves a moment of reflection. The empire that had once seemed unassailable was now fractured, subdued, and under control. Mercy, once given to a single human, had been their undoing, and the galaxy had learned a vital lesson. Humans are not ordinary. The Ghost Fleet returned to the shadows of deep space, cloaked, silent, and patient. The human knew that the galaxy was forever changed, and that vigilance would always be required. But for now, the reckoning was complete. Humanity had survived, dominated, and rewritten the rules of power in the stars. And somewhere in the void, the human looked toward the distant light of 1,000 suns, knowing that the universe had just witnessed the beginning of a new era, one where humans would never again be underestimated, where mercy could be lethal, and where intelligence, strategy, and patience were weapons more powerful than fleets, armies, or empires. The galaxy had been tested. Humanity had endured, and the reckoning had begun.